Okay, welcome to Cleveland Heights City Council. This is our regular meeting. It is July 6th at 7:35. Addie, would you please call the roll?
DeWitt Foy.
Here.
Posh.
Here.
Larson. Here. Kuda.
Here.
Cobb.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Stone.
All right. No amendments to the agenda, correct? So approval of the minutes from May 18th, 2026. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right, very good. We'll move on to proclamations and honors.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to first invite up our longtime Assistant Director for Planning, Karen Knittel. So Karen is officially retired now, so congratulations, Karen. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So I'd like to begin by sharing that whereas Karen Knittel began her public service career with the City of Cleveland Heights on November 18th, 1996, and whereas Mrs. Knittel has served the residents of the city in many planning capacities, starting as the development planner, moving to city planner, and finally, most recently, acting as the Assistant Director of Planning. Whereas what is truly unique about Mrs. Knittel's service is not the length of her tenure, but the way she served. She is in the trenches alongside those who work for her. It's collaborative and communicative. She works with every employee of the city with kindness. It's knowledgeable and passionate about planning, the environment, and the city's residents. She does it all without any expectation of recognition or reward. And whereas the mayor, city council members, and city staff are deeply appreciative of the services rendered to the residents of Cleveland Heights by Mrs. Knittel. Now, therefore, the City of Cleveland Heights does honorably pay tribute to Karen Knittel and recognizes her for her many years of service, many accomplishments over her 30 years of dedicated service to the residents of Cleveland Heights, and extends to her their most sincere wishes for continued success in her future endeavors.
Thank you all. I just want to say it's truly been an honor working for Cleveland Heights, and I love our community, and it's been a true lifelong passion to work here, and I'm so glad that I've had this opportunity. So once again, thank you, and I appreciate so much all my coworkers, because it says it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a whole community of staff to work together to help our city stay strong and resilient. So thank you, everybody, for this honor and for letting me be here tonight.
Smile.
You guys photobombing.
Always right here.
I'd like to invite up two other familiar faces, Carla Rodenberg, Deborah Van Cleef. Whereas for the past 10 years, Deborah Van Cleef and Carla Rodenberg have faithfully contributed their monthly column, Heights of Democracy, within the Heights Observer, enriching civic dialogue and encouraging thoughtful public engagement throughout the Cleveland Heights community. And whereas through their writing, research, and commentary, Ms. Van Cleef and Ms. Rodenberg have explored issues of local government, democracy, housing, history, arts and culture, civic participation, social justice, and community identity, helping residents better understand both the challenges and opportunities facing our city. Whereas over the course of hundreds of columns published in the Heights Observer, Deborah Van Cleef and Carla Rodenberg have helped preserve important aspects of local history, amplified community conversations, and inspired residents to participate more fully in civic life. And whereas the City of Cleveland Heights recognizes with gratitude the dedication intellect, persistence, and public spirit Deborah Van Cleef and Carla Rodenberg have demonstrated through a decade of service to our community through Heights of Democracy. Now, therefore, I, Jim Petrus, Mayor of the City of Cleveland Heights, do hereby proclaim our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Deborah Van Cleef and Carla Rodenberg for 10 years of distinguished civic writing and community service through Heights of Democracy, and commend them for their enduring contributions to public understanding, democratic engagement, and the civic life of Cleveland Heights.
Well, we'd like to have our fellows come and join us.
As we said 3 weeks ago, we thanked everybody everybody we could think of in our final column except our partners who have a lot to do with this column surviving for 10 years.
There we go. All right, thank you, Mayor. And you know, this being the 250-year anniversary of the country and free speech being endangered, to say the least, it's a great honor to have the both of you here. Mayor, are you ready to do your comment? Oh, you know what? Sure. Do we want to? If it's okay, Jamira, would you be okay with coming up and introducing yourself? Jamira MacArthur is working now with Chantel Brown, our Congresswoman,
Yes,
and we'd like to hear a few words from you. If you
absolutely. I don't know which mic you like for me to
actually,
use.
either one works.
Okay, that's perfect. Dual mics here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamira MacArthur. I do work for Congresswoman Chantel Brown. I am a caseworker and field representative. However, I am a Cleveland Heights resident. I have the honor of maintaining and living in my grandparents' home that they left behind. That home has been in our family for over 60 years. We love that home, and I love Cleveland Heights. So I told the office, like, I will be at all of the Cleveland Heights things. So I am actually just here to speak about constituent services. My particular portfolio is for Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and IRS. However, obviously dealing in the office, you kind of get to do everything, right? All of the federal agencies. But right now, we are really trying to push the knowledge of constituent services because we are not getting the responses that we're used to, right, from these agencies, unfortunately. So from a congressional standpoint, I have the ability to reach out to the liaisons and track your status. So if you're having any issues with Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, IRS, you can, the easiest thing to do is go on chantelbrown.house.gov. You'll look in the top corner, it'll say request assistance. It'll let you open a case. It's just a privacy release form. You can submit any documentation, and that gives me the ability to go in, reach out to those agencies and speak on your behalf. Now, obviously, there's only me for the entire district for those portfolios. However, I'm going to go and figure it out, right? I love to do what we do. I love working for constituents. I love trying to figure it out because it's not easy. It's not always easy. The paperwork is hard sometimes. There's so many different moving parts. So our main thing is just understanding we are here for you. Anything that we can do, you can reach out to your congresswoman. And if it's not something we can do right now, it's on our radar and we'll figure it out, right? So thank you all very much. If you need anything at all, your council members now have my information. So anything you need. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Jamira, just out of curiosity, is there a passport service that, can you talk in the mic just so, yeah, thanks.
So we do offer a passport service. So if you're having any issues with obtaining your passport, she actually holds part partnership events where they're typically at the libraries. However, you can come in, do your passport right on site, they take the picture on site, they submit it on site, and then it's sent to you. Pretty simple instructions. Any of her events are always posted on our website. However, if you're having any of those issues, and it could be passports, immigration, veteran affairs, any of the federal type of agencies, we have direct contact. So yes, we do hold events. If there's any events that we feel should be held, we are always open to suggestions, and we can look into that as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 things for the record this evening. Firstly, on June 12, 2026, the city of Cleveland Heights received 3 bids for project number 2606, Brinkmore and Mount Laurel Water Main Replacement Project, and the lowest and best came from Terrace Construction, Inc. in the amount of $1,422,148.74. The other 2 bids received were as follows. Fabrizi Trucking and Paving, $1,492,075.75, and SET Inc., $1,975,492. Secondly, on June 18, 2026, the city of Cleveland Heights received bids for project 2605, Altamont Water Main Replacement Project. The lowest and best came from Terrace Construction, Inc. in the amount of $2,128,876.53. The other bidder was as following: Fabrizi Trucking and Paving, $2,129,899.50. And finally, I'd like to request permission to bid project 2607, which is the transfer station rehabilitation project.
So moved.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Time for the Reese report. City Administrator Michael Reese.
Okay, thank you, President Kuda, Vice President Larson, and members of City Council. This is the July 6, 2026 edition of the Reese Report. I have just 4 things. There was an arts facilities in Cleveland Heights tour that I participated in. This group tour was organized by Deidre McPherson, Chair of the Arts Commission. We toured public and private arts facilities. This was about 2 weeks ago, such as Noble Library, Roanoke Park, Kane Park, the Obama Theater, the Grog Shop, Disciples Christian Church, and other venues. It was very educational and helpful to me to go on that tour. We are in the midst of our human resources transition. Our new human resources director, Christina Halstead, started today. Very happy to have her here. There's been a lot to plan for. To ensure that we have a seamless transition and are providing Christina with the background information and support she needs to do her job. Third, we talked about this during committee of the whole, deer management meetings. We are really looking at this deer management issue from a regional perspective as Vice President Larson, Councilmember Posh, and I continue to participate in meetings with some of our suburban neighbors. We've settled on a deer management public hearing on Tuesday, July 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. at City Hall, where the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and Cleveland Metro Parks will each make a presentation along with providing the public with an opportunity to speak. And fourth and last, just a reminder for the August 17th City Council meeting, I will provide a written report to the mayor and council before that will make part of the packet, and I'll present that as well during the August 17th council meeting. So that's the conclusion of my report this evening.
Thank you. Okay, and departmental reports. We have our Public Works Director, Colette Klingscale. Thank you, Director.
Good evening, Council President, members of council, Mayor Petrus. I'm basically here to update you guys about our 2026 road program. So there's a map, and this map is actually located on the city's website as well. So we're currently finishing up what we termed phase 1 of this year's project. And phase 1 consisted of Delaware Drive from Cedar Road to North Park Boulevard, Washington Boulevard from West Cottage Grove Drive to Yorkshire Road, Washington Boulevard from Yorkshire East to Edge Hill Road from Washington Boulevard to Woodward Road, North St. James from Cedar Road to Fairmount Boulevard, Colchester from West St. James to Parkway to Demington Road, Delwood Road from Lee to South Taylor, Sycamore Road from Lee to Ivydale, Whitethorn Road from Lee to Ivydale, Ivydale Road from Mayfield Road to Euclid Heights Boulevard, Redwood Road from Lee to Superior, Belmar Road from Mayfield to Avondale, Yellowstone from Mayfield to Oak Ridge Road, Rumson Road from Newberry Road to Forest Hill Boulevard, and Maple Road from Wood to Severn. So phase one was like 35 streets. So we recently bid out phase two because we did receive some additional funding in this year's budget, and we bid out 10 additional streets that were just included on the map. And I'm going to back up because I didn't finish reading phase one. So we did Jeanette Road from Annisdale to Severn, Bendermere Road from South Taylor to Andrews, Bolton Road from Lee to Monticello, Oxford from Woodridge to Monticello, Oxford from Monticello to Noble, and Oxford from Noble Road to the dead end. Bluestone from Noble Road to the city line, which is around Quarry Drive, Canterbury from East Scarborough to Fairmount, Brandon from Monticello to Northville, and Grayton from North Taylor to Noble. So I wanted to read that because sometimes you really can't read the map. Some folks don't have the internet, so this way they'll be able to watch the meeting. So phase two, we're doing 10 additional streets, which haven't started. We anticipate that they'll start around August, the beginning of August. And those streets are Burbridge Road from Quilliams to Atherstone, Clifford Road from Bluestone to Plainfield, Woodward Road from Euclid Heights Boulevard to Berkshire Road, Cumberland from Mayfield to Euclid Heights Boulevard, Colonial Drive from Oak to Euclid Heights Boulevard, Compton Road from Mayfield to Euclid Heights Boulevard, Cleveland Heights Boulevard from Mayfield to Glenwood, East Overlook from Washington to Euclid Heights Boulevard, Wellington from Fairmount to Fairfax Road, and Hyde Park Road from Lee to South Compton. Now, those bids came in a little less than what we projected, so we're looking to add 2 additional streets onto the project, which I won't announce now because I want to make sure that we have the funding available, but we are looking to add 2 additional streets that we submitted. So, as I indicated, phase one, we're wrapping up phase one. I expect phase one to be done the beginning of August. Right now, they're like cleaning up around the ADA ramps, filling in dirt. They still have striping to do, and then they'll be done with that project. And phase two is scheduled to start sometime around the beginning of August. Also connected with our road program, we're going to have our street striping program that's going to start the last week of July, first week of August, where we'll be striping our main thoroughfares, crosswalks around school zones. That's scheduled to start in August. Now, before I wrap up, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Sometimes we get calls and folks say, well, why aren't you doing my road? Sometimes there are issues that are related to a road that prevent us from resurfacing. For instance, we had planned to do Lee Road this year between Superior and Cedar. And we found out that East Ohio Gas is doing a pipe program, a pipe project on that street. Therefore, we had to delay doing that road repaving this year. Also, connected with the 2 projects that the mayor read into the record tonight, Mount Laurel and Brinkmore, as well as Altamont. Now, those All three of those roads have had very low pavement scores over the last few years. However, they all needed water mains, new water mains. So we waited until we could get funding to do the water mains before we could do anything with the roadway. And just so you guys know, when we get a grant for the water project, it's just to replace the water main. We actually do the road out of the road program. So some of the funds that were awarded this year, there were funding set aside to make sure we had enough money to do those roads. And other than that, we're filling potholes. We're doing Cleveland Water Department street openings. This year, we had quite a few water main breaks due to the cold weather, just like you get a lot of potholes when there's the freeze-thaw cycle. You get a lot of water main breaks when you have those conditions. So when Cleveland repairs a water main break, it's up to the city to restore the street. So we've had quite a few of those this year as well. Sometimes folks will call those as a pothole, but they're really more than a pothole. And we prioritize them according to where they're located. So we try to take care of like main streets around schools, and we may put off side streets until later. They're not as high a priority as the main streets. So that's it for my update.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So everyone knows that our roads needed a lot of attention, and we are making a big impact this year, but it's going to be a multi-year effort. And I want to again thank City Council for more than doubling the resurfacing budget this year. But I also want to thank Director Clinkscale, because just because you get more money doesn't mean that you can necessarily make it happen, because as she explained, you need to work with the water company, the gas company, other stakeholders to make sure that they're done with their work so that you don't repave a street and then have someone tear it up. Yeah. And so whenever we challenged Director Clinkscale to double our resurfacing budget, she never once complained. She went out there, figured out how to make it happen on top of everything that she does on a day-to-day basis to run the city's department. So the city's largest department. And so I just want to thank her for her hard work.
Thank you.
You know, Director Clinkscale, there is really no way to thank you enough. And I really appreciate the way the administration is working together to respond to the changes that I think people were really demanding. I mean, even before we did the survey, you know, this was already in motion. And I think it started with you reaching out to other cities and saying, well, how much repaving do you do a year? And finding out that we really weren't where we needed to be budget-wise. And then, you know, having this superstar right here be able to execute all this, it's a wonderful thing. So thank you. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that the work you've put in is becoming very evident. Any trip I've taken lately in the city, there's new street being paved or road work ahead or whatever. And I think that's in all credit to you and the mayor and City Administrator Reese for pushing those through, and the time you spent on making sure that those streets that needed the repairs this year were prioritized, which is what you do all the time. You prioritize streets that, unless there's a water or a gas line fix. So yeah, superstar.
Thank you.
Councilman DeWitt-Foy.
Thanks for the update and all the work you've been putting in. Just a clarification, and sorry if I missed it, but do you have a timeline for when the phase 2 streets will be paved?
Phase 2 starts in August, and our plan is to have those streets paved by October, before the asphalt plants close.
Maybe Cumberland, you might want to wait until September. I don't know. Well, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add my thanks to Director Clinkscale for always being so responsive. We get a lot of constituent emails and, questions about the roads, and we have to sometimes defer back to you. I would ask the director, as we go into budget season, streets, you don't only do the streets when we're replacing asphalt, but your department is responsible for the snow and leaf pickup. And so I would really love to see during the budget season, what can we do from a council, from a financial perspective to give you the resources you need, not just for road paving contracts, but staff, the equipment that you need, anything else, like really think holistically because, we've talked that for the last 6 months or so about right sizing this and getting this back up to the level that, our residents expect and that we'd like to give them. And I think that really starts in your department. So I'm looking forward to hearing how we can help you and your team be the most effective in every season, not just road paving season.
Councilwoman Stone?
I would just like to second what Councilwoman Cohen said. I think there's no higher priority than providing citizens with the daily experience of living in our city and making that a positive one. And I can tell you from being out and around, the comments that I've gotten from residents about the streets in particular have really lifted the spirits of Cleveland Heights and civic pride in a way that is really wonderful to see. And I agree with you that the mayor's leadership in requesting the increased funding and your implementation really has set a tone. And I, for one, and as a council, along with Councilwoman Cohen, I think it's one of our highest priorities for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Report of the Clerk of Council.
I actually do have a brief announcement. It's a bit of a pat on my own back. But I'm honored to share that I've been elected by my fellow members of the Ohio Municipal Clerks Association to serve on the OMCA Executive Board starting in 2027.
Wow.
I'm grateful for the confidence and support of my peers, and I look forward to contributing to the continued success of our organization. So thank you.
Congratulations. All right, it's time for public comment. I saw somebody raise their hand. That's not what you do. What you do is you go over here, you fill out a form so you can speak, and it is public comment time. This is for agenda items. Do we have anything?
Yes, we have two.
Okay, let's do it.
Isaac Mahali.
All right, as you're coming up, you got 3 minutes, and state your name and the street you live
My
on.
name is Isaac Mahali. I live on 3378 Blanche Avenue, Cleveland Heights.
Very good.
I was here 3 weeks ago, and as I said, this city framed me. It is beyond reason, beyond. It just, the some press could not believe his eyes. So what they did to me. And now, exactly 3 weeks later we come, they took my house to go and put it on nuisance abatements. That's not the revenge. That was not to put me in jail for going to Taylor Road Synagogue, saying you are criminal trespasser, even though I am the vice president. That was not enough. 5 years ago, they made up the things that I'm going to come to the city hall and kill everybody with machine gun and bomb the city hall because they wanted to take 3-day vacation. These are all fakery. How much of a corruption can be there? And still, it's just like the eyes is closed. This lady is Jewish, she took off. She didn't want to hear a word of it because she's afraid to be seen with the Jews. Oh, they are Jewish conspiracy or something. Not one of your councilmen came to me and said, what was your story? I can't believe it. It's just they close their eyes. It's not my problem. There is huge, huge corruption in this city. Now you're talking about this asphalt. I remember back in Iran, we as a minority Jews, I was there half a century ago, there used to be a big truck used to chew the asphalt, shoot it in the back. There was a heater in the back. It would heat it, add a little bit of tar to it, okay? And it would drop it down, and the grader, they would grade it, and they would do, let's say, Taylor Road from Cedar to Mayfield in less than a day. And this equipment was made in USA. So why? American, they are gone berserk, they are gone crazy, they cannot anymore produce what they produce. In Iran, they could use American equipment, but in America, they cannot use it. I don't understand it. So with that, now you understand when you said 3 minutes, now they brought to put my house onto nuisance abatements. That was not a revenge.
All right, thank you.
A. Snodgrass.
E. Snodgrass.
Excuse my attire. Good evening. When I look at this council, I see...
Name and street, please.
Yeah, so Aloysius Snodgrass, and I'm in the Coventry neighborhood off of Mayfield. So when I look at this council, I see parents, I see people who are siblings of someone. I see people who take and make the ultimate sacrifice every single day to come and participate in a thankless job, a part of this democracy. I see a golfer, joking, but all seriousness, this chamber is tasked with preserving the highest possibilities of that's allowed by this body, public peace, health, safety, and welfare of the people of this community. When I think about this city, a beautiful city that has brought people from around the globe, around the country, even around this state, from rural parts of our state to urban parts to wherever. We all came here somehow, and for some reason. I see a beautiful city with major opportunity. When I look at reality though, tenants subject to neurological level harm, city code versus enforcement that's all over the place, young people harmed, senior citizens harmed. I know we have some teachers, folks that were on our school board, children harmed. People wondering, where is their city? Where is housing code? What is housing code? What is enforcement doing? I see people pack up and leave. I've met people who have packed up and thrown what little they had to the side of the curb because they were dealing with a slumlord and just leave. And, I ask, where is strong housing code to send a message to slumlords that slumlords will not be tolerated in the city of Cleveland Heights? And so I want each of you to think about your homes, your safe housing place. Now imagine an infestation of rodents. Imagine water bubbling through the ceiling. Imagine sleeping in your car, showering and using the restroom in a bathroom of a gas station because you're dealing with a slumlord. Imagine conditions so bad that it impacts your everyday life to even show up here on council and show up for your families and show up for your friends and show up to the duties that you have, to show up to church, or if you're a person of faith. So I want you to think about this today. Moving forward, you all, this legislative body, can make this a sanctuary city to protect tenants, to protect human beings against slumlords who are in other states, who do not care about the city, the architecture in this city, the history, the beauty of this city. And so I just hope you take that and create some legislation that can really protect tenants. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. All right, we have pretty meaty bunch of legislation here. So we're going to start with first readings for consideration for adoption, and then we'll do general comments afterwards, or public comments.
I have ordinance number 135-2026 on first reading, an ordinance to amend certain subparagraphs of ordinance number 241-2025 and subsequent amending ordinances relating to appropriations and other expenditures of the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 136-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with International Code Council to assist in preparing building and housing code updates for the city of Cleveland Heights and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Any comments or questions? Yes, go ahead.
The gentleman who just spoke, your remarks are timely. The legislation that we will be voting on just now is for a comprehensive study of the Cleveland Heights Building Code. And your concerns are echoed throughout the proposal that we have reviewed from one of the top building code authorities in the country. This is an issue that City Council is thinking about deeply. It's as the chair of the Housing Committee, it's a big priority of mine. And we see you, we hear you, you'll be heard, and there will be opportunities for your experience to be added to this process where we really take a look at our code so that it serves the citizens of the city.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other? Yes, Vice President.
Mr. Snodgrass, thank you. And as Councilor Stone said, it's timely. And I think you and I know, we've talked about the frustrations that I've had over the years with properties that have remained in a limbo because we don't have the juice in the ordinances to move it along and get repairs done. Encourage those LLCs and even out of city, out of state, out of country to repair those places where people should not have to be living because they're not safe and they're not clean. So we, as Councilor Stone said, we hear you, and this is our opportunity to possibly make a difference. So thanks.
Your home has the best protection.
All right, any other comments?
Well, I just think we also need to say that this is a 9-month process to kind of go through this. And I think in prior conversations, we're not going to stop what we're doing right now, waiting for this to get done, but certainly reworking our housing and building code is a huge priority of ours.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Cohen?
We did speak about this in committee of the whole, but just for the public, there is quite a bit of this contract that's related to community engagement and working with the public. We know that this is one of the top concerns that we receive, and so I'm looking forward to the planning department's work with the consultant, should we approve this contract, to really make sure that that piece is woven throughout the work that we do to make sure the final product reflects what our community needs.
Great point. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 137-2026 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to accept and expend grant funds under the Cuyahoga County Board of Health for the 2026 to 2030 Lead Safe Cuyahoga program and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Yes.
I'd like to make sure that everybody here knows that this program is going to be really important for those low to moderate income people who live in houses built before 1978 that have lead in their paint, in the woodwork, in their exteriors, in their yards. And this grant requires that the units that receive these services be occupied by a child. So it's prioritizing our children under the age of 6. And it also allows for a grandparent who takes that child and takes care of them for, we were told tonight 20 hours per month. We're going to verify that. If you live in a home built before 1978, you're a grandparent and you're taking care of a below 6-year-old child, then you can apply for this program. So keep your eyes and ears open, and I'm sure that the Housing and Building Department will make sure that this program is highlighted in the news that goes out for everybody to take advantage of when they can.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Hearing no more comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 138-2026 on first reading, a resolution declaring the property at 3378 Blanche Avenue, Cleveland Heights, Ohio to be a nuisance, authorizing abatement of the nuisance, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 139-2026 on first reading, a resolution confirming the appointment of Eric Zamft and Craig Cobb to 3-year terms to the City of Cleveland Heights' Tax Incentive Review Council and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Yes, Councilman.
Question for the law director. This is a volunteer appointment. I'm not receiving any tax incentives. Should I be recusing myself from voting on this?
No, I don't think there's a need to recuse yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
This is kind of an awkward moment, but okay.
Question.
All right, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 140-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with GPD Group for professional engineering services associated with the MLK Drive Doan Brook Culvert Pre-Design Study and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 141-2026 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute agreements with Cummins Inc. and Gatto Electrical Services Inc. for a replacement diesel generator at Fire Station Number 2, waiving competitive bidding and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yes.
As we affirmed during our committee of the whole, this generator is due for a replacement. And the Firehouse 2 has been sneaking by with it. So this is for the safety of our firefighters, our first responders, and it's long overdue, and it is a budgeted item. So we are going to move forward without having a second reading. It's important.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 143-2026 on first reading, an ordinance adopting a new section 139.26 of the codified ordinances entitled Additional Nominal Fringe Benefits and Public Purpose Expenditures, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. We have one item for first reading only.
I have ordinance number 142-2026 on first reading, an ordinance amending various sections of Part 11 zoning code of the codified ordinances of the City of Cleveland Heights to permit accessory dwelling unit, ADUs, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
All right, I think we're looking for a motion here.
Council President, yes, I'd like to move that we refer this to the Planning Commission for its consideration.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. On to second readings.
I have resolution number 131-2026 on second reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into professional services agreement with DS Architecture LLC for engineering and design services for the Cumberland Pool Facility Modernization and Rehabilitation Project, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry. I'm
Thank you,
looking
Mr.
everywhere.
President.
but-
I'd like to begin by thanking City Council for passing legislation directing us to enter into a contract with RFC Contracting to be our owner's representative for the renovation or rebuild of Cumberland. The next phase is in hiring a design and engineering team. We received proposals from 12 different organizations. Each one had to put together a team that included roles like cost estimators, pool designers, civil, mechanical, and structural engineers, and architects with historical preservation experience. The proposals ranged from about $700,000 to about $2.3 million. We ultimately selected DS Architecture. They put together a premier team. DS Architecture will lead the historic preservation of the bathhouse. Osborne Engineering, which is headquartered here in Cleveland and is over 100 years old and has done projects like Yankee Stadium, will be doing all the civil, mechanical, and structural engineering. Councilman Hunziker is the premier pool designer in the country. They will be doing that work for us. SWA Group is an industry-leading landscape architecture firm that actually did the project in Public Square. And Seventh Hill, a group that we've previously worked with, will be leading the community engagement. So DS Architecture's proposal was for $997,000, and they were willing to reduce that by nearly 10% to $913,000. And we think that that is a very good value for everything that we're getting.
I want to thank you for your leadership on this, and I have to tell you from, just the organizational standpoint of, getting all the tours of our neighboring city facilities and offering to bring council people along to those, and just focusing on getting this done. We're going to have a new pool in 2028. And that's a heck of a thing to accomplish in the first 6 months of a term.
If I could add one more thing, perhaps most importantly,
the entire cost for the design and engineering is expected to fit within the budget that was passed by council at the end of the year. So this will not tap into our savings. It will fit within the $110 million that was passed by council at the end of the year.
I'm glad to hear that. Any other comments? Yes, Councilwoman Cohen.
I could not be more thrilled that we are moving so quickly on this. And I wanted to say that from reading the proposal, not only do we have an excellent cadre of experts that are going to be working on this, but they've already identified, issues and opportunities in their proposal that are so exciting. And this is the beginning, as council president, you noted, this is the beginning of getting a new pool by 2028, and could not be more excited for it.
All right. Any other comments? All right. All enthusiastically in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anybody opposed? That motion passes.
I have ordinance number 132-2026 on second reading, an ordinance to amend certain subparagraphs of ordinance number 241-2025 and subsequent amending ordinances relating to appropriations and other expenditures of the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Yes.
I would like to say that the funding for this particular program, which is the previous legislation that we just passed, we're using some unencumbered funds from Fund 402, and that balance at the end of the year or at the beginning of this year was $5,237,000 and some change. So the money is there for this project, and there's no question that we have the funds available without going into savings.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Any other? Oh, Councilman Posh.
I think it needs to be said that this item was technically not budgeted for last year, but it's fitting inside this budget. It's essentially, it's $1 million project. And that's pretty remarkable as far as getting a good handle on the budget, what we can do. And you're only been in this term for 6 months, and being able to pull this off with this group, with the community involvements that you've put together, is really, really remarkable. And I really want to appreciate your leadership and just acknowledge that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 133-2026 on second reading, a resolution appointing an assessment equalization board to hear objections relative to the estimated assessments for a portion of the expense of street lighting within the city of Cleveland Heights, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Yes.
I'm going to ask you to do a roll call vote on this. I'm going to recuse myself because I happen to know one of these individuals and we're very close. Nothing to do with the decision-making process, but I just think it's appropriate to acknowledge that.
Any?
Cobb.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
DeWitt Foy.
Aye.
Kuda.
Aye.
Cohen.
Aye.
Stone.
Aye.
Okay.
Next, I have resolution number 134-2026 on second reading, a resolution appointing an assessment equalization board to hear objections relative to the estimated assessments for a portion of the expense of improvement of streets and parkways, including grading, draining, curbing, paving, repaving, repairing, sweeping or cleaning thereof, removing snow therefrom, and planting, maintaining, and removing shade trees thereon within the city of Cleveland Heights, and declaring the necessity this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Petrus.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion passes. And now we're on to committee reports. Who would like to go first? Maybe nobody. Okay, go ahead. Councilman.
Yes, as was mentioned in Committee of the Whole, we have a vacancy for the alternate position on our Board of Zoning Appeals, and we're going to open that for applications for any interested residents. This is to fill an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2028. Experience in real estate, architecture, law, urban planning, or land use is desirable, but not required. We're going to post that in the city's email blast the next consecutive Fridays So if you're interested, please apply by July 24th. There are currently 2 applications that we have on file. If you're one of those people, and I'm going to reach out to you, it's not necessary for you to reapply if you're interested in being considered. If you have any questions about this position, go to the city's website and read up on what the Board of Zoning Appeals does. It basically decides appeals on zoning determinations and authorizes variances from the zoning code. But if anyone has any questions about the position, I'll be glad to chat with you. You can find my phone number on the city's website.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Yes.
So the city council's public safety and health committee is going to have a meeting on July 28th, although the Deer Thunder had already been put out by our chief administrator. This is a public input session. It's 2 hours long. The first hour will involve ODNR and Metro Parks talking about urban deer populations. The second half is a listening session for the committee and fellow council members, just to get a better sense of what our community feels about our deer population. It is likely going to lead to some decision that we'll need to make on if we're going to do anything to address our deer population. You know, we haven't gone that far yet. We've done a lot of research, but this is the time where we'll be sharing information with the public, learning as much as we can, getting the feedback we need in order to make a decision, probably, I would suspect, in the next 30 to 60 days. And the reason why is we are trying to do this in conjunction with a regional approach, working with our neighboring cities to see how they do it and leverage some of their expertise.
Thank you. Councilman DeWitt Foy.
On July 13th, during our committee of the whole, the director of Parks and Recreation will join us to provide an update on projects to date this year and sort of preview some things that are coming in the second half of the year. If you have questions about the Parks, Recreation, and Open Source Master Plan, you could bring those then. That's being wrapped up, as well as any other questions or concerns for the director.
Councilwoman Stone.
Also at the July 13th meeting, the Housing Committee will be bringing forward two items. One will be an update on the housing needs assessment study that has been underway and just recently had a public engagement session. So we'll be hearing from Director Zanf about that. We will also be discussing a more refined draft of our short-term rental legislation and for council direction.
Thank you. Madam Vice President.
The Climate and Environmental Sustainability Committee meets on Tuesday, July 21st at 4 p.m. The Transportation Mobility Committee meets Wednesday, July 29th at 7 p.m. And both of those committees are getting report from the administrative liaisons about budget for 2027. So it's been an interesting process to see what those committees are looking forward to in terms of what's going to make a difference in our city next year. Thank you.
And to round out the committees, July 13th, which is our next committee of the whole meeting, we'll be continuing our discussion on the Landmark Commission revised ordinance. We just referred the ADU legislation to the Planning Commission to consider it at their meeting. That Planning Commission meeting will be July 29th at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. So anyone who would like to provide additional comment to the Planning Commission does have the authority to recommend changes to the ordinance that we've conveyed to them. So that would be an opportunity for the public to have input at that part of the process. And then depending Planning Commission action, it may come back to us. We expect it to come back to us in August for further consideration. And I think that is everything I have. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. There is one more meeting tomorrow at 5:30. Councilman Cobb, who's the chair of the Administrative Services Committee, will be convening a meeting with all the chairs of the citizen committees. And if there's anybody out there listening that is interested in joining a committee or commission or what else is there? Committees, boards, yeah, we got boards. Yeah, it would be good to tune into that meeting. Again, it's 5:30 tomorrow, Administrative Services Committee. You get a good taste of, all the different opportunities we have. Anything else for the good of the order? Then we'll, yes.
Oh, just, I thank you. I overlooked that. I was thinking about my terrible golf score today.
Well,
So, thank you.
that's because you got reminded. Oh, is that it? Okay, that is so self-deprecating to bring that up, but okay. So it's time for general public comment.
Edgar Mitchell.
Edgar Mitchell, how many? 4, okay. The dapper Edgar Mitchell.
Good evening, Council, Law Director, Mayor. It's always a pleasure for me to come before you guys. Even sometimes when things might not be so great, it's still nice to see you and see how things operate. And sometimes I forget what I'm going to say because I'm getting old. But anyway, it's great to see you guys do what you do. And I come a lot of times to learn, to listen to what's going on and to learn what's going on in the city. And to me, I really like to see what's happening because I always think about who really cares, who is willing to try to do some of the things that has to be done. And you have to listen to a lot of us, some of us with complaints and all types of stuff because we all going to have problems all of our lives, I should say. There's never going to be a complete peace or nothing's going to be completely what you want it to be. Perhaps when you leave this earth, maybe, hopefully then. But anyway, that's what I just basically want to say. I want to give a word of encouragement. We've had some really hot weather the last week or so. So make sure you check in on your elders and your neighbors and make sure they get hydrated and that everybody can, be as comfortable as possible.
Healthy.
Thanks again and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Anthony Miozzi.
I'm gonna admit 2 things. I'm not sorry for my outfit. We're all adults. I came from work. It's just what it is. Second thing, I don't really like being here. Not that, I don't want to be a part of this. I want to have, everyone's opinions heard. We were just talking about democracy earlier and freedom and civil participation, as we so call it. But one thing that's still on my mind, and I just want a quick yes or no answer real quick from anyone. I don't know who handles this. Are we reviewing flock contracts yet? There's been a lot of discussion about that. Are we doing anything?
Yes,
Okay, so we are reviewing it?
you're actively.
Okay, great. That is a great step because how are we letting a billion-dollar private company have profiles on everyone here? All of you, all of us. How are we letting them have a profile on all of us when we are very private citizens in a public space? I don't want to be tracked across city lines, even though we have apparently a closed contract, as I've heard from other people, not anyone here. We actively share our information with the Flock network and everyone who can get into Flock. That's part of the Cleveland contract. I just wanted to make it known that I still don't like Flock, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people don't as well. That's all I have to say.
Did you say your name and the street you live on? I didn't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm Anthony, and I live on Meadowbrook.
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Marvin Moskowitz.
Yes, I am a resident of Cleveland Heights since 1949, and I had relatives. And this is regarding the Taylor Road Synagogue situation, who were members of Taylor Road Synagogue, and I had an uncle who was very 20 years as a semi officer there. On every Saturday, he was. And it's gone through a rough period for the last 10, 15, 20 years, 12 years, whatever. But the potential for the synagogue to make it's holding its own at this point under a very hard duress. But if it's allowed to continue as a synagogue, the possibilities for it are still very good for the community to be used as a central location for all kinds of endeavors. And even during the COVID period, when you couldn't have large weddings, they were able to make some small weddings there legally, and there's a great deal of money has been poured into it for the last 15 years to update it. So I think it's a shame that they want to convert it into a entertainment center instead. The people who basically majority of the membership that were involved with it were survivors of World War II. And they saw everything they had destroyed, but they came to Cleveland and they rebuilt this. There was about 5 synagogues in the old 105th Street neighborhood. They got together and built this synagogue together, and it was a point where it served all kinds of purposes for the Jewish community, not just as a synagogue, but for schoolrooms. It had an afternoon school there, and it had provided schoolrooms for some of the schools that Hebrew schools that were having points where they needed additional location to provide their students, and it provided that. And it had school camps during the summer times, and the most recently it had a gymnasium that was being used for gymnastics that was doing great work, and they had a kollel for which was a study center for the synagogue, the Kol Yereim.
Sorry, we got to wrap it up.
So the possibility for it to continue in those endeavors still has a very strong potential, and should not be if it becomes an entertainment center solely, that'll all be wiped out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cynthia Trotta.
Good evening, President Kuda, Mayor Petrus, members of council. Cynthia Trotta, I live on South Overlook. I'm here today because I support advancing Ordinance 142-2026 because ADUs can help residents solve real family housing needs while strengthening our existing neighborhoods. I'm especially thinking about families caring for aging parents or for a loved one who is ill, disabled, or temporarily needs support. In those situations, time matters. Families are often making decisions under pressure while also trying to preserve dignity, independence, and safety. That's why I appreciated the city's ADU design competition. My understanding is that one purpose of that effort was to make ADUs more practical and replicable so that residents would not have to start from scratch every time an urgent family need arises. But if every compliant ADU still requires a conditional use process, we lose much of that speed and predictability. I also want to repeat a point raised 2 weeks ago within council. A homeowner can build a home addition for an aging parent or ill family member, assuming it meets zoning and building code, without going through a conditional use process. But that same family need is met through, if that same family need is met through a small code compliant ADU with a kitchenette and separate entrance, the draft appears to require conditional use approval. I appreciate the guardrails already in the proposal. 1 ADU per unit, owner occupancy, size limits, height limits, setbacks, side or rear placement, design compatibility, and review of parking, landscaping, and stormwater issues. So my request is simple. Please make ADUs administratively or by right approvable when they meet the objective standards in section 1121.13. Reserve that conditional use for exceptions, unusual lots, or requests that don't meet the standards. Please move this forward, but make the rules protective, predictable, and usable. ADUs can help Cleveland Heights support aging in place, family caregiving, modest new housing, and reinvestment in our housing stock without changing the character of our neighborhoods. And I have 46 seconds to share with you a story, an observation I heard this last week. A person who first heard about ADUs, first response was swipe left, can't afford it. Then she came to the June 2nd meeting and began thinking, wait a minute, my house right now, we're undergoing expensive chimney repair, expensive roofing repair. There goes the kitchen, there goes the bathroom. We're not upgrading those because of those costs. But wait a minute, if one of my 3 kids chooses to return to Cleveland Heights and pays enough for our property to pay for an ADU and those upgrades, we all win. We have a place to stay. We get to stay in our beloved community. They get a house they can afford, and we have housing stock that's updated. So I urge you to reconsider the conditional use, but grateful that you're moving forward overall. Thank you very much.
That was a perfect 3 minutes. Absolutely. All right, is that it? All right. Thank you all for coming and sharing, those of you who shared your feelings with us. We appreciate that as always. And I'm assuming Cynthia came later because, okay.
I did not realize that. I think I misread your comment.
Well,
My apologies.
oops. But thanks for staying. Okay, old business, new business. Council member comments.
Karen Kniddle already left, but I have worked with Karen for over a decade. In fact, I've never stayed at a regular job for that long. So Karen's been a colleague because of my work on the Planning Commission for longer than any other professional colleague. And I just wanted to reiterate what knowledge and expertise she has given to the city over the many, many years. And she is the most understated person. You would never know, but she has really moved our city in just an incredibly positive direction of all the work that she did. And I just wanted to publicly acknowledge her and thank her for all of the work that we've done together and all of her service to the city.
She's very special. Other council comments? Wow. Well, then it comes to me. Council President's report. I really don't have anything to report. I'd just like to say, I feel really, since this is our last council meeting until August 17th, our last regular meeting, how great it's been, first 6 months, first half of the year. Feel great about what we've been able to accomplish together. I really appreciate my colleagues' collegiality, the cooperation, the collaboration that we share. There will never be a day when I will take this for granted. And I really appreciate all of you and all of you for coming. And this meeting is adjourned at 8:43.